Hey, good morning. Pastor Andrew here. And for my daily devotion today, I want to talk about feet washing. Now, there's three times in the Gospels that we see the washing of feet. The first time happens at Simon the Pharisee's house when this woman who is a sinner comes in and she's just crying over Jesus' feet and she uses her hair to wash them, and she's kissing his feet, and she's just showing all this reverence. And everybody at the table was, said, well, if Jesus knew that she was a sinner, he wouldn't allow her to do this. And then there's 6 days before Passover, we see Jesus' feet get cleaned again. This time it's Mary, the sister of Lazarus, who comes in and she takes this expensive perfume and she pours it over Jesus' feet and she uses her hair to clean it up. And then in the next chapter, we see this section, starting at verse 3. Jesus knew that the Father had given him authority over everything and that he had come from God and would return to God. So he got up from the table, he took off his robe, and he wrapped a towel around his waist. And he poured water in a basin, and then he began to wash the disciples' feet, drying them with the towel he had around him. In this culture, feet were dirty. Walking through the sand, the dirt, with only sandals to wear. They didn't have all the fancy footwear that we have. Their feet were dirty. So as tradition was, as you would enter somebody's house, they would normally, if you were of higher status than them, they would wash your feet, or at least if you were on the same social status, they would give you a basin to wash your own feet. This is right during the Last Supper. They're in the upper room, and Jesus starts to clean the disciples' feet. And so they're all confused, and Peter says, well, why don't you do my whole body? And Jesus, he says to them down in verse 14, and since I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash each other's feet. I've given you an example to follow. Do as I have done, and I tell you the truth. Slaves are not greater than their master, nor is the messenger more important than those who send the message. Now that you know these things, God will bless you for doing them. As we talk about feet washing, it's really this act of service, this act of loving the disciples. This is such an act of love for Jesus to do to the disciples. This was not a normal practice for him. They would, as teacher and Lord, they would be the ones washing his feet upon arrival at their houses and stuff. So the fact that Jesus decides to wash everyone's feet is such a heartfelt act of love. As we celebrate Easter this week, and I know it's hard because we want to be at the church and we want to be together, I want you guys to try to find other ways to show active love to one another. See, at Easter time, we go to church, and churches are always, very welcoming at Easter time, but it's really just a party for the Christians. Everybody gets to get together, they have fun, they go out for a meal. But during Easter time, I don't think we spend enough time loving the people outside the church. I mean, many of us will often invite people to church and try to get them and try to tell them about Jesus. But for non-believers, sometimes they don't want to hear about Jesus. So what do? Well, we find a way that we can love them. Love them in a way that they will understand. See, for the disciples, this foot washing by Jesus was this deep act of intimate love. We don't just need to tell people about Jesus, because action speaks so much louder. That seems to be what the church does today. We get too caught up in, I'm going to tell you about Jesus, you need Jesus, convict them, condemn them. But we just need to love on them. Love on them in a way that understands. Because loving people as Jesus loved people is going to show them way more of Jesus than if we're just telling them about him. Well, I hope that's an encouraging word for you today, and I hope you guys have a great week. Bye-bye.